Well lads, welcome back to the workshop. Another day, another bunch of broken machines. Today, first up we have Makita router. This is an old Makita half-inch router from 1996. A 3612BR. Problem with it, making a horrible vibrating sound. So something's not right inside the motor. We'll get stuck straight under here and see what the problem is. Take the brushes out before you try to take the motor apart, because they can break when you pull them out. Wee bit of wear, look, just from the brush holder. Brushes are still alright, otherwise might replace them. We'll see what else needs to be done. Same as that one, that one's even worse again. So vibration is probably causing it to run to one side and wear away the actual carbon. It's not a problem yet, but if it gets any worse, because of the way she'll be sitting at an angle, she could engage the wrong segment at the wrong time. So when it's getting that bad, you need to replace them. So to take the base off, it's very simple. It's not like a modern one. Unlock the base, push it down. Damn it. Take off your wee plastic nut for setting the depth. Unlock it again. Straight off. Springs, counterweight, and your base itself. Micro bakelite plastic's alright as well. Kerf board's good. And for the motor, actually spinning free enough. Just 4 bolts in to take the motor off. Bearings are gone on this thing. They can be very tight to take apart. Sometimes there is a wee bit of beating or forcing required. This one we're okay. There's another problem. So the housing's melted here. It's actually sitting into steel insert at the top. It's the steel that holds the bearing, so that's not going to wear out, but obviously that had to get hot at some stage to melt that housing. And as for the motor, she's been rubbing marks on it, and she is worn, but it's not worn out. The bearing's not great. Now this rotor is actually pressed into a bearing down here. The bearing itself is screwed on. There's a plate over the top and bolted down so the bearing won't come out. So you have to press the armature out. Set her up in the bearing press. Just press into this bore hole. There's your problem. That's where the vibration's coming from. Just somehow eating away a section of the fan. That'll need to be replaced. Bearing itself, it's not gone, but it doesn't feel good. Not on there all that tight. Yeah, that is gone. That needs to go. Replace that. And also replace this one. One new fan. Get rid of that one. A 6200 bearing on here. Now positioning this, top of this fan, this brass insert has to be just sitting flush with this lip here. Any more or less and it's going to rub on the housing. Now, that should do the job. For this one, it's a 6004. That should do the job. Don't forget your ring spring sits in the bottom. Now, that's the motor side of it, nice and smooth. And let's change the brushes in. They're CB153 Makita brushes. Base, just like taking it off, putting it on again is very easy. Side with a thread on it has only a spring, blank side has the wee counterweight. Threaded side then comes up through the body of the machine. Line that spring up, open your lock, push it down. Reattach your depth nut. And your metal nut goes on top then to stop you taking it, to stop it coming apart. And that's her. Make sure you're in the off position because you can leave this switched on. It's an older type machine, not as much safety on it. Lovely. No growl, no vibrations. That's her sorted. New fan, new bearings, new brushes. Couldn't go wrong with that. That's the 3612BR fixed up again. for a 25-year-old machine, she's not doing too bad. Next up, we have a Makita metal saw. A slow cutting saw for cutting through steel. Doesn't feel good anyway. What is she? DCS 552. Got a light, but nothing else. Right. Well, that'll be alright. Well, you don't run without brushes. That brush holder is actually melted. That brush holder's actually done wrong. The saw's not right there. It's pressed over to one side. This isn't closed right. And there's screws missing. So somebody's actually done this already. That's not a big deal, as long as it didn't break anything. Might be what's wrong with the blade. Lock's working anyway. What is she? 2020 machine. Right. She's a brush machine, same as the Makita grinder or wee skill saw. Plastic brush holder or end bell inside of here. Once she gets overworked, brushes start to heat up, melt the plastic. So, common problem melting these brush holders. If you have a brushed machine, you have to monitor how much you're running the machine. If you've got a brushed cordless tool, you have to be aware they can't do crazy amounts of work. If you're pushing it too hard, you can risk melting these brush holders. Right, first time I've had one of these on. Let's get under here and see what the crack is. She's wired on. Motor might be alright. Doesn't look burnt. A wee bit of metal filings up on here. The magnet's still strong. It's got a bit of work done anyway. This is what we need to change, but it actually we wired on all the way to the switch. It's a big long wire in that end bell. Right, replace this. There's where it wasn't closed right, look. We notch for the field. Somebody's had this out, didn't put it back together right, and he's crushed the bit of plastic that holds that notch. Alright, might get away with that. Mightn't have to replace it. Yeah, as long as we line it up right, that should be okay. That spring's been damaged too. You didn't have the spring engaged when I closed it up. Yeah, it pinched on like that. Not a problem though, that'll survive. Right, let's clean out. I'll clean out that body a bit as well. Right, that'll do. I'm not cleaning this whole thing down. Not cleaning it just for a video or to make it look nice. Just cleaning for practicality. It's metal, cutting saw. I don't need to clean the whole thing. It's going to get dirty again. I just want to clean these two areas here, because this is where the fan sits. And the black you see around here, that's just dirt and debris. And this is a vent hole for the motor to actually breathe. So you want the vents to actually clear in this, so the motor can actually stay cool. So if you start seeing it black in here with dirt and grit, that's already built up. If you have it opened and you don't clean it out, it's going to build up even more and potentially block out the holes. So clean it out when you get a chance. Get rid of that. That's what we want. New end bell. I said end bell, not the other way around. I'll just keep these as well. They're not essential, but better to have them than to not. Just because it's a cordless tool on a site, most boys will be using them near a radio or something. This will just help keep the interference away. Wouldn't want to annoy anybody else on the site. Just one wee turn. And if we're not right, we can adjust it. That's still sitting over to the side, you see. Just locating into there. So you need to be careful of that. Make sure you have it centered before pressing it on. So you can put that in wrong if you're not careful. That's it centered there. And pressed on. Because of these two wee fins here, you can press this over to one side and lock it in and it'd be wrong. So that's one to keep note of. Bearings are okay. Don't forget to recap for the end of this bearing. That's awkward. Take it out to put it on. Press that in again. Adjust your field. Put that on till you feel it bite. Line that up again. cover should just click into place. Much better. Nice and tight the whole way around. That's what we want. Now, before I forget, need the lock bar, and we'll need the spring. Put your spring in first. That's done tight. As we notch at the end for this piece of the lock bar to drop onto. So all you have to do is just line it up and drop it on. Nothing else to it. These cables as well actually come out here. So make sure they're tucked in. Line that up. Drop it on. Screw that down now when we have it right. This should be up here. Just move that a little bit. Very simple. There's a track cut out the whole way down for all the wires to tuck into. Nothing complicated about it. Start your trigger. Make sure it springs facing flat against this surface. It's not flat against here, it's going to poke out and jam up. There's actually two switches on this. There's the LED switch, there's the main switch. And for safety then, is this here wee boy, the secondary one. Basically that is just a lock. Without it pressed in, you can't move this trigger handle. So this just gets in the way, this one gets in the way of this one. Unless you push it down, that just gives you the clearance to allow it to pass. Very simple and very effective. I think that's us good to go. Same thing, everything should sit flat. Shouldn't have to force nothing. If you have to force it down, it could have a nip wire. Push that sleeve on. Catch your thread. Just a wee awkward bit. Stick on your washer. The nut that holds this bolt up. So without the nut on, it drops down. It's a bit awkward to get it on. You have to hold the thread up in order to thread it on. Then you can drop on your lever handle for locking it. Just adjust it to where you want it. The brushes then are the same as the grinder as well, CB430s. doing this job, if you do melt the brush holder, it's not unusual to need to replace them caps as well. They can melt onto the plastic. So that should be her. That's it. One Makita DHP459 metal cutting saw, up and running again. A new set of brushes and a new end bell. Nice one. Now for a little Makita. This one was already in. I've had this one opened already. Already pulled the chalk off of it, and the stator is burnt out on the inside, so I've been waiting for that stator to come in. It's now on, so let's open her up again and get it changed. Sometimes it's easier just to put these back together again to store them instead of putting them inside of a box, because they can get full of dirt and grit, sawdust, filings if you leave it open inside of a box waiting on parts to come in. These cans sometimes take up to a month. It's better just to close them up, just so nothing goes missing either. I guarantee everything will be together when you open it up again. That's okay, and that's okay. Tiny little rotor in this thing. Very power dense wee machine. So the stator, totally black. Thing's still running, but very much down in power, and that's why. Burnt out stator. The rotor itself is actually a solid magnet, so that's not going to burn out. So these here coloured wires, they don't disconnect. You actually take off this PCB board on the back. 4 wee screws hold it on. They're tiny little screws. Put them down. Take that off. And everything else. And the rest then. I thought they were bullet connectors, but they're not. They're actual just individual connectors. Crimped connectors, just. So they have to be snipped off. Get rid of that. That's your part number if you need one. One little tiny field. So what's the length like? Yeah, loads of wire. Safe enough to cut these off. Cut them off and put on a new jointer. So drop that on first. And we'll connect these up. That's Just use the same type of connectors. That's one. I like these crumps, but that there lock is just on the wrong side. Every time I use them, they self-lock again. No, that's not right. Is this the wrong stator? Or have they changed the design? That's not the same. Alright. That's white. The adapter on it. That's better. Started to worry there. Now for the rest, put on your rotor, push on your gearbox, we twist and push, get everything lined up again, press down. Just to help hold them we fine wires in. Just to help locate them finer wires so you don't damage them. Just put them underneath the last heavy wire, that white one. That'll help hold them down just in case one will pop out as you're putting the cover back on. If you nip them ones, you're going to easily break them. That should be it. One other thing we forgot. That should have went on first. Little clutch spring for locking in the clutch positions. It just slides on down in here. So it catches on all these wee notches on your clutch gear. So as you twist your clutch, that's what actually locks in into each one. That goes on first. I forgot to put that on. Lucky I've seen it now than when it was rebuilt. Of course then, your forward reverse switch, don't forget about that, and that should do her. Does she work? Nice one. Lastly, a new chuck. And you can spend as much as you like on a new chuck. Not a name brand one. Name brand ones can be too expensive. Don't forget your screw. Get a left hand thread. That's it. That's her. One Makita drill with a new chuck and a new stator. DHP459. Now, it's €65 for that repair. A wee bit more expensive. The chuck alone is about €30. So if it was just a stator you're changing, you're talking about 35. Not so bad. Now, for a really old girl. An old Makita 9401 belt sander. These things are the dinosaurs of woodworking tools. Look at that thing. Right, we have to fix this one up. This thing may be well banged up, and you'd imagine she's just worn out. Time done, replace the thing. This is just a belt sander, but these things cost about €500 or €600 to replace. This is the big, heavy 9401 machine. You also get a 9404, later version of this, the one you generally see in the shop. But this is the heavier version. This is a really old machine. This thing could be 20 or 25 years old. You still get this today. So if you're doing heavy amounts of sanding, you need a belt sander. Most carpenters would have something like this here. This is like a dinosaur type power tool. Just a big brute of a machine. Built to last. I mean really built to last. I've changed motors in these before where the actual com bar, the copper in the com bar, completely worn away down to nothing, all the way down to the steel basically. These can do a serious amount of work. So even when they're looking like this here, well smashed up, look like they're worn out, they're not. Still plenty of life left in them. Well worth putting a motor into one of these things here. 500 or 600 for a new one, 200 fixes it up. Leaves you with a perfectly functioning machine. Mightn't be pretty, but it'll do the job. This one, he says there's a switch. It sounds alright. Right, he wants this fixed anyway. So let's get it fixed. See if that's the problem. Well, that'll be the problem, alright. It's not wired in. Right. In other words, I would say we've supplied him this switch and he's tried to fit it. There's another problem there too. That capacitor, it's all swollen. That's gone. Don't actually need the capacitor. It's only a noise suppression capacitor. You can cut them out, use it without them. So that's what we'll do. We'll remove that completely. And as well as this here switch, it's definitely going to need a new lead as well. Can't send it out looking like that. So just check the brushes. Looks fairly new. That's not old. Just a few other things you want to check on these things. The one's the belt. The burn marks on that. It's been jamming. Everything else is running smooth. There's actually not much wear on the armature. She looks good inside. Doing the other thing, way down the back of there, there's a wear plate. Just a flat steel plate that runs across. And if your belt ever runs too far back, you can start cutting onto the aluminium body. There's actually a steel plate at the very back for the belt to cut into first, basically a sacrificial part. This one, it's still there, still in place, wee bit of a mark on it, but still doing its job, so that's okay. For now, we'll just get the lead and wire in the switch. So the switch itself is quite basic. It's only the live it's actually switching. That'll be the live ones. The neutral then are actually connected together. So neutral is jointed, live switches. Very basic switch, but a very good switch. It's an actual Omron switch. As you can see, good hard plastic body, actual all gasket sealed the whole way around on a metal back. These things here last decades. Simplicity is best sometimes. Right, first thing I want to do, simplify this. That cap's swollen, so it's not going to be good anyway. Get rid of that. Plenty of length on these wires. Get rid of that. Now, does she work? No, still doesn't work. I just reused his plug again. Yeah, maybe just a fuse. Whatever happened, the last one could have took out the fuse. Second time lucky. That's her. One Makita 9401 240 volt belt sander. Up and running again. I don't know if the customer had that switch fitted already or what, but she's fitted now. Potentially, if he had already fitted the switch and it still didn't work, it's either going to be his fuse was a problem or that swollen capacitor. There's no problem actually cutting these here capacitors out. They're not doing anything for the running of the machine. They're just a noise suppression capacitor for the electrical noise coming out of the machine. So this universal motor will be changing the sinusoidal waveform of the power as it goes in, and then the neutral coming out again can interfere, giving an odd sort of signal coming out. So if you have delicate equipment, so if you're in a factory or somewhere with delicate equipment, computers and that, it can be an effect then. Or if you're using a radio nearby, not having a capacitor on the machine can actually interfere with the radio. Apart from that, it's not needed. When it's a carpentry tool, I don't think it's going to be near any sensitive equipment. That's her. Up and running again. Okay, and the last one for today, an old Hitachi router, 1/4 inch M8V. And she is old. 2003. See if she works. She does. Ooh, sounds rough though. Speed control also works. The sounds of it. It's just bearings it needs. So let's get into this one, see what we can do. Separate the two halves, make things easier. Just give it a quick wee clean here while we're at it. Don't lose that brass insert. That is out of in here for the actual lock screw. So that's just a screw pushing down. This wee piece of brass, it's actually pressing against your rail. Don't lose that. Brushes aren't too bad. Yeah, get away with them. This one's a lot tighter than the last. We got lucky with the Makita one. We're not going to be as lucky with this. Which is tight. Prise right gently, bit by bit. until you can get 2 of them in. That should be her. Bit of stuff inside as well. Let's get that blowing out. Apart from that, it's not actually too bad. So bearing's gone, and that one's gone. Now that's just the collet. This one's done a wee bit differently. Collet cone itself is actually threaded. Threads into the collet nut. The collet nut is also threaded onto the armature. To clamp this in the vise and turn this, or maybe there we go. Take it off like that. It wasn't actually that tight. Now the bearing's probably bolted on, so press out the armature out of the bearing. So we'll take this to the bearing press and press it out. Actually, there's hardly any need for the bearing press, it's not on all that tight. It's an odd looking fan. Right. This is our main culprit. That rattle's actually coming from the handles. It's not a big deal, but it's kind of annoying. Just a piece of broken plastic, so it is. That's it. Wouldn't have been a problem to leave it, just sounds better if there's no rattle. Clean all this down first, give the body a quick wee wash. We'll blow out that there as well, just in case. .608. What's that? And a 6200. Just to help this go on. Doesn't need much. Just need to expand it a little bit to help it slide on. It's not even hot. Aluminium dissipates the heat very, very quickly. That's only a wee touch. I'll just press this one on. It's definitely an old machine. Tell by the actual quality of that armature. Nice, heavy, well made armature. Tightly packed windings, a wee bit of a tie, but they're dumped God knows how many times. It's completely coated. It's an actual drilled out then for balancing. So they've sort of been spun at speed to work out where the imbalance is, and then the laminations would have been drilled to make the weight exactly right. So the markings are. Normally you see a gouge, we tracks cut out instead. That's what they do now. Back then they must have just drilled it. Brave age, but obviously withstanding the test of time. And that's her. Simple as that. Older machines were so much easier to fix up. They were actually designed for it. This just sits on here. It's for catching this bar, for locking it up. It doesn't have to be too tight. So once this actually starts up and starts cutting, it'll lock on tighter anyway. Just use the same brushes again. There's plenty of meat left on them. This threaded rod up through this empty track. So it's that way. Nuts on just to hold it in place. Now for this wee pin. Now for this wee insert. It's held on just by a C-clip. Pull that off. That handle comes out. Washer. And you just unthread that. It's only just another C-clip underneath that again. It's just holding this handle in position. Drop that on there, tighten it back up. And just leave it. So it's sitting in a nice comfortable position for starting and stopping. Normally you have it about 90 degrees for when it's locked. That's her. Now, the question is, what does she sound like? Nice. Obviously variable speed, wasn't much point in this machine. That's never been turned before. Still fresh, bright yellow. That's where all the markings are in speed 5. Well, never been used full power. Don't have a lock handle for it, obviously. I suppose never used it before anyway. Not much point in holding back, waiting for that to come on. Just on for bearings, so that'll do. That's the last one for the day. That's the last one for the day. One old Hitachi M8V from 2003. 20-year-old machine. Up and running again, nice and smooth, with a set of bearings. Nice handy wee fix to finish the day on. Anyway folks, thanks for watching. Hope you are enjoying them. Hope you are learning something from my videos. Enjoying posting them. I'm glad to see people are liking them and watching them. Thanks very much for all the views. Give us a wee like and a follow if you're liking the tool repair videos. And also, big massive thank you and shout out to all my members and patron members who are helping support the channel. Thanks very much. Really appreciate all your help. Hopefully this weekend I'll get a couple of extra videos posted up for the members and for Patreon also. Thanks again everybody for watching. Cheers.